Thank you for watching this video. Today we're going to go over the category screen, which we recently updated, so it's a great time to record a new video. To get to the category screen, you just go to Inventory and choose Categories, and you'll end up in the category screen. The beauty of our system is that you can have an unlimited number of levels of categories. The topmost level you'll see in bold is actually called the root category. So root categories, typically you don't want to have too many of them. It's typically your department, we just call it category. And you might have department, category, subcategories. In coreSTORE, we just keep it all under categories. When you set up your root categories, you can choose different options, including how many subcategories each one has. You'll see here we can actually collapse the root categories if we just want to show everything that's a root. And keep in mind, a lot of reports look for the checkbox that says only root categories. So if you go to the category sales reports and the inventory reports that allow you to print by category, you can actually tell the system only include the root category, which then allows you to look at your totals very easily. And usually from an accounting standpoint, typically that's how you're going to post to your accounting system, by root category. So you want to give a lot of thought to how you set up your category structure. Once you're set up with your categories, it's very easy to change them and move them around, and we'll give you an example of that. So when I look at my category screen, this is where I can add a new child category. I can also edit the existing category or delete it. I can hide the category from the button grid. So the button grid is actually the rows of buttons that show up on the sales screen. Now you can have it default to always show those, or you can also choose to hide those. Let me go ahead and we'll just uncheck the accessories. So if I go now to the sales screen so that it's not hidden from the grid, if I start a new sale, you'll see if I click show grid, I now have my accessories button show up, and then I can click it and those are the items that are directly related to that accessory category, but I can also tap caps, which is a subcategory that I specifically said don't hide from the grid. So the grid is really helpful for items that don't have a barcode, such as fees, service, any other types of items such as rentals or training, a class. Any of those are good to represent on the screen as a button. Typically, you won't show any buttons for inventory categories that pretty much all have a barcode on them, because it's really hard to look for a specific item if you have a lot of items under a category. So let's go back to the category screen. Another really nice feature is we will clearly show you how many items belong to any particular category. So for example, caps, I've got 17 items that are associated to that specific category. If I click the category name, it takes me to my inventory screen, which is really nice. So it actually shows me, here's all the items that are associated with this category. And you'll see it shows 17, which matches the actual category count that's on the screen. When I go to edit a category, I can just click the edit button. At this point, I can change the parent category. So if I wanted to make caps a root category, I would just change it to none, and that would actually remove it from being a child of the accessory category. I can specify a category name. If I do have an e-commerce platform that's connected to coreSTORE, I can actually choose the associated e-commerce category. And that's important, so when you're saving an item, it knows what category to associate with that item on the website, which sometimes might be a different structure from your categories in your coreSTORE setup. I can also specify a default category type. So category types are important for certain industries, especially the shooting industry. There's required types, and if you default a category type, then it's easier because when you're adding a new item, it will by default populate the type that you chose. And in this case, I could say, hey, it's a pistol. Now, if you're not in the shooting industry, you may or may not be using types, but the nice thing is you can associate a default type to a category. You can always change that type by item. The workflow is a really powerful feature. I don't have any workflows set up at the moment in this environment, but if I'm using Corilla, which is our marketing platform, really powerful, I can choose any workflow to associate with this category. And what that does is when I'm actually creating a sale transaction, any category that has a workflow associated with it, if I sold an item belonging to that category, the customer will be added to that workflow. Again, it's a really powerful feature. It's where the two platforms integrate together. You can associate workflows to a category or even on the item level. You can also associate workflows to tags as well. Your category color and category image, those will appear on the buttons in the grid. So you can choose a color, and the actual button on the grid that we just looked at on the sales screen will show that color, or alternatively, you can actually associate an image to a category. I can also enter a long description for the category, which contains any type of text and formatted information that will be used for your website for just the general listing of the category screens. You can choose a list of default attributes. So if this particular category, I think I'm on caps, if we get to choose color and size for most of the items, you can actually specify the default attributes that will be listed when you add a new item and choose that as the category. The default markup and margin is another shortcut for you, so you don't have to enter it for each item. You can actually default, in this case, I have a 20% markup percent for this item, so that's how it's going to calculate the price. Age verification is becoming a much more important topic, and we allow you to choose whether a full category requires you to verify your customer's age. And that's part of the sale process. We have another video that we can link on the bottom in this description of this video if you're interested to learn more on how to set up age verification. So I can choose, yes, require age verification for anyone that buys a cap, and it will default to 21. Again, that's a company setting. You can choose what your default age is for purchasing a product. Now there's a few other options here. I can specify whether this category, when you're adding items, it should show the rental rates, and whether it's a rental item, whether it's for actual items that you're renting, or maybe you're renting a classroom, or maybe you have a range and you're renting lanes. You want to mark that category as a rental category, and that way the item, when you're adding it, will have the actual rental fields appear. You can also choose whether by default this is a category that any item added should show up on the website. Again, this is just going to default to yes. If I check it, that means as I add an item, it will just default the e-commerce option to true, meaning any item that I add will be added to the website. I can prohibit any manual discounts at the time of the sale. That's right on the sales screen where I enter discounts. I can literally specify that this category never allow a manual discount. I can also choose whether this category, any item sold under this category, requires a waiver. We have 3 waiver systems. One is coreForce, our built-in waiver system in coreForce. We've got Smart Waiver and we have Otter Waiver. So those are the 3 waiver solutions that we currently support. If you check this box, when you sell an item in this category, it's going to first check to see if there is a waiver on file. Secondly, it will ensure that the waiver hasn't expired. I can also choose whether to default items in this category to taxable or non-taxable. And in addition, once I check this box or uncheck it, I can click on Update All Items, and any item belonging to this category would automatically be set to either taxable or non-taxable based on the checkbox. And finally, I can also choose, for example, if I'm selling, I don't know, maybe I'm selling cigars and you can't be over 18. That's age verification, but maybe if I'm selling, well, obviously if I'm selling handguns or any other prohibited items that require a customer, we want to make sure that no mistakes are made. So of course we want to check that box because that will require us entering the customer information. So KYC, right? So know your customer. Again, if you're selling any items that require a customer and requires you to save that customer information and associate it with that sales transaction, you can actually check this box, and a sale will not be complete or cannot be completed unless you either add a new customer or select an existing customer. So that's all of the options within the category screen. When I choose one or more categories, you do have the option to delete categories in bulk. I can also clear my selection. And I think that gives you a great overview of the category screen. So thank you for watching this video, and until next time, we appreciate you.